It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford is Mr. Neil. Don't know how we Neil.
Friday night dinner.
It's so hot in here. I've took off my shirt. Yeah.
Well, yeah, seems accurate.
It seems accurate, as the UK has had 4 days of heat, and therefore everyone's sick of it already. Bravo to the UK, not designed for weather, ever.
No. As a wise man once said, there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only the wrong clothes.
Yeah, correct. Neil, big week again this week. We have some NFL news that we need to get to because they have massive implications, or we think they may have massive implications in fantasy that we've already discussed. We have which can only be described as most accurate rankings so far, the tight end rankings. They have to be because that's your area of expertise. And then we focus on a division once dominated by the New England Patriots, but seemingly not anymore, and that is the AFC East. I'm looking forward to the AFC East because I believe there will be different opinions on where we think everybody will be, with the possible exception of the Buffalo Bills.
Indeed.
So let's get this party started, Neil. Let's get on with some NFL news. Neil, last week we did... 2 weeks ago, we did running back rankings. And you picked Cam Akers, RB5.
Yes.
He now has a torn Achilles and won't be playing this year. I guess the question is not how it affects your rankings, but what happens now in Los Angeles?
Well, the Los Angeles Rams showed us last year how certain they are that Darrell Henderson can carry the load by spending a second-round draft pick on Cam Akers. So that should tell you that they are not prepared to hand the reins of this backfield over to him 100%. It'd be lovely if they did. That's not going to happen. They are going to... We've seen that the Rams are not afraid to make trades. I would hope that they're not going to be silly enough to throw away assets and trading for a running back, but you never know. I think there's a good chance that he will sign a free agent or wait till final, roster cut downs and sign someone there. My heart of hearts wants him to sign Duke Johnson.
Yeah, obviously.
But the heart wants that. What it wants. I think people are going to overdraft Darrell Henderson in fantasy and are going to be disappointed. Whereas if people had drafted him as they were a few weeks ago with Cam Akers on the roster, the type of production that Darrell Henderson could give them, they would feel happy about it. Whereas I think what he's going to give them at the price people are going to start paying for, they're going to be disappointed.
I think if you look at it really, or I do, and you look at it from a fantasy point of view, if I am a fantasy player, I'm avoiding the LA Rams in a draft, but I'm seriously interested in what's going on week one waiver wire round in the kind of zero RB concept to get an idea of maybe they do pick someone up, as you said, once cut downs happen. And by week 2, that guy is now starting 50, 60, 70% of the snaps and therefore getting a lot of yards and a lot of points. I'm with you. I don't think I want any part of Darrell Henderson right now, but I'm interested to think about who will be with him going forward week 2, week 3.
Yeah, unless you are a firm believer in Jake Funk, there's nothing to see here for me. I wasn't going to draft Darrell Henderson either way.
Let's move on, Neil. We found out today that Michael Thomas took what I described to you as the Shaquille O'Neal approach to injuries, which was I'm going to get you, I'm going to rehab on your time, not mine. And it only had his surgery in June, and therefore is expected to miss the start of the season. He was wide receiver 6 for you in your wide receiver rankings we did last week. I guess with him not starting, who benefits most from that in New Orleans?
It's hard to say anyone, because this offense now looks bad.
Yeah.
We don't mind concentrated passing trees, I say, when there are 3. New Orleans for years have just been a 2. So now what we're looking at a wide receiver core of Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway. I'm not excited. Okay, so what we got at tight end? We got a second-year player, Adam Troutman, who very, very, very promising, very dominant at the college level, being compared at Senior Bowl to Dallas Goedert. Okay, so what else have we got? We've got Jameis Winston. Okay, you've got Jameis Winston throwing at who? Who are these people? I think the biggest impact is that, they have shown that unless they are absolutely forced to do it, they do not want to give Alvin Kamara 25 touches a game. He's not there. They don't want him to be they don't want him getting 20 carries. They're happy to get him 15 to 17 touches, but they don't want him racking up 400 carries. It's a remarkable stat, but Alvin Kamara has never had 1,000-yard rushing, and he's only had a few 100-yard rushing games. So does this mean they're going to lean on the run a bit more? Well, if they do, that means it's good for Latavius Murray because he's going to get more carries. I have a sneaking feeling that now we are going to see as close to a 2-quarterback system as the NFL is likely to have seen since the good old days of the Giants in the 50s, where they would rotate Charlie Connolly and I think it was Y.A. Tittle. Jameis Winston is now going to be on the field with Taysom Hill, and Taysom Hill is going to take snaps at quarterback because if there's one thing we have seen with Hill, he can make plays. Well, this is an offense now that is now desperately short of playmakers. It's an absolute fantasy mess. Unless you think they're gonna bombard Kamara with targets as well. But we saw last year when Taysom Hill was starting a quarterback, as a receiver, Alvin Kamara's role disappeared. He's now one of those risky back. I think we're getting to a stage now where the running backs you're going to take in the first round, you've got Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and then it's best of luck. It's pick your flavour. Do you want to gamble on Kamara being a 25 touch player? Do you want to trust the fact that Derrick Henry's going to be going to see an awful lot of rushing work but not much receiving? Do we say maybe Ezekiel Elliott can be what he was 2 years ago? What about Aaron Jones? Is it time then? Do we start saying, sod it, I'm going to take Tyreek Hill at 3? It's a mess. It's now you want to pick the beginning of your drafts or at the end and let other people worry about 3 to 6 because they're the worrying spots because all these running backs now have got question marks.
We haven't got to the NFC South yet, but I think, reading and listening to stuff, the Alvin Kamara question, even before this injury, was real, right? As in, how will they use him? Are the skill sets of the 2 quarterbacks they are planning to use in line with what Alvin Kamara is good at? And you would think then, Michael Thomas is out, so they'll use Kamara more. I'm not sure they do. I think, as you said, if that means they're going to run more, it probably means they're going to use Latavius Murray more than use Alvin Kamara more. Alvin Kamara may still get the same plays. Again, as you quite rightly pointed out, if Taysom Hill's in, like when Taysom Hill was on the field last year, Alvin Kamara was a traffic cone. He was not used at all. So I will happily let someone else take Alvin Kamara and just say, and if I get beat, I'll just hold my hands up and say, okay, fair enough, but I don't need him on my roster getting 3 points a game.
I think as well with the nebulous timetable of return for Michael Thomas, I don't know whether you can even draft him as someone to keep on your bench.
No.
Because the preliminary reports he's going to miss 4 games, maybe 5 games. We saw last year when Michael Thomas came back, was he healthy? No. So he's. I don't think you can draft him.
You're down in a situation now for me where you are 8, 7, 8, 9 rounds into a fantasy draft before you even contemplate taking anyone from the New Orleans Saints, and that is unheard of in recent, recent decade, right? And I
Yeah.
think you look I'd be like, if I didn't have a New Orleans Saints on the roster, I'd be like, okay, like I've got a dynasty draft at the moment, and a couple of weeks ago I was looking at it and I was like, oh, there's Latavius Murray. I've got him. I'm like, oh, is he going to play much? Blah 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 blah. And after yesterday, I'm like, ooh, Latavius Murray is actually not a bad person to keep around, because I think he might get serious pub the first few weeks. Final one, Neil. Your wide receiver 2, Devontae Adams, broke off contract talks, or both sides decided to break off contract talks with the Green Bay Packers. We talked Packers last week in a purely Aaron Rodgers sense, and we expected him to come back. But when does this type of situation management against the team start to have a negative impact on everybody else?
About 6 hours ago. I don't understand why the rhetoric seems to be that the Packers don't want to make Devontae Adams the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Okay, I have a question. Why? What has he shown you to suggest in your offense that he shouldn't be the most highly paid wide receiver in the NFL? You have nothing. You have neglected your offense and your skill position players for nearly 5 years. You know, Jordy Nelson is not unretiring. You know, he's not coming in there. I don't understand what are we doing this. Is this? You remember the argument about Chip Kelly was he just thought scheme was better than players. Yeah, that only works when your players are good in your scheme. You can't just plug anyone in. Do the Packers think, no, we'll just keep running this with anyone? It's not going to fly. Now, not signing doesn't mean, he's going to get traded, because I say he is under contract this year. So he's still going to be the focal point of the offense, whoever they've got running it. But the bad juju that is running through this organization now, as I say, I think Gutekunst has already cemented his place as the Minnesota Vikings MVP.
There's now a situation in Green Bay that after this season, it's like Jordan Love and Alan Lazard.
Don't write MVS off.
Oh, and MVS as well, sorry, yeah. We'll put it this way, that's great and all, but it's not Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Whatever it is, I know what it isn't. And that is a concern.
See, it's one of those things, we haven't seen Jordan Love. We literally haven't. But you traded up in the first round of the NFL draft to take a quarterback who then couldn't dress on game days behind Tim Boyle.
It's an issue.
Now, people can make leaps. Josh Allen is one. Do they make them every year? No. Do we chase outliers like that? No. The fact that they allegedly made an offer to Aaron Rodgers for an extension that would have made him the highest paid player in the NFL after spending a first round draft pick they traded up to draft a quarterback, that doesn't tell me that they're sitting there thinking, we've gone from Favre to Rodgers to Love and we feel great about it.
Yeah.
There's already one rogue nation in the NFL. It's the Houston Texans. The Green Bay Packers are eyeing that blueprint thinking, we can do that.
They need to be very, very careful. They're fine at the moment, but they need to take the next few steps very, very carefully.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Neil, let's get on with the show and your tight end rankings. As always, Neil, let's have it 10-1, please.
Well, 10-1, I feel a bit stupid now. Number 10 is Robert Tonyan. Number 9 is Logan Thomas. I'm thinking, what Thomas have I got there? Why have I got Ian Thomas so high? Logan Thomas. Number 8 is Tyler Higbee. Number 7 is Dallas Goedert. Number 6 is Kyle Pitts. Number 5, Mark Andrews. Number 4, George Kittle. Number 3, TJ Hawkinson. Number 2, Darren Waller. Number 1, controversially, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, controversially. See what you did there. Tight end rankings on Fantasy Pros, ADP. 10, Rob Gronkowski. 9, Logan Thomas. 8, Noah Fant. 7, Dallas Goedert. 6, Kyle Pitts. 5, TJ Hawkinson. 4, Mark Andrews. 3, Waller. 2, Kittle. 1, Kelsey. I have a question for you and Fantasy Pros. First of all, why none of the Pats guys that they spent a fortune on in the summer? Is it they take each other's snaps away?
There's the potential that they're going to cap each other. It would have been great if they'd signed one or the other. They signed both. You're going to have to run the risk of, okay, well, who's going to be blocking, who's going to be running the routes? If they both do it, well, they can't both be targeted. It's a nightmare situation. Very rarely do teams produce 2 fantasy viable tight ends. There have been a handful of teams who've done it over the last 15 years, but we're going back to the 2011 Patriots, the 2014 Colts, the Eagles a couple of years ago with had Ertz and Goddard. It's not a viable situation because it doesn't always work, especially two tight ends who you could say they have the skills to do each other's job. So if it was, we've got the great blocker and a great receiver, you go with the receiver, obviously, even if he's not going to play as many snaps. But these are both good blockers. They're both, they both have roles in the red zone. Jonnu Smith is obviously very good after the catch. I can't pick one or the other, so I'm not interested in one or the other, especially if I'm going to be drafting a tight end.
Yeah, why are you so much lower than consensus on George Kittle?
Because we saw last year when the 49ers stunk, they ran the ball. This year, I think the 49ers are very good, so they're going to run the ball, and they're going to run the ball more. Now, does that mean that Kittle won't lead the team in targets? No, he's very, very good. But he does have competition in Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Trey Lance as well, if he does start, is going to run the ball himself. And also, Kittle has never been a big touchdown scorer. He's only scored his career highs 5 in a season because they've not been great at throwing to him in the red zone. They like him as a blocker in the red zone. So do I think Kittle is going to be a top tight end? Yes, absolutely. But the people above him have easier roads to more target opportunity than Kittle, who... the fact that he has spoken in the past about how much he loves blocking, that's going to count against him in the final analysis.
Are you more concerned by Fant recovering from injury or dealing with those quarterbacks?
The quarterbacks. No, Fant is an athletic freak. He's one of the most athletic tight ends to come into the NFL for quite some time. His choices are check down Charlie in Teddy Bridgewater or Mr. Inaccuracy Drew Lock. Plus, the Broncos last season, if you look at their neutral game script, they were fairly run heavy. So what we have is an offense that wants to establish the run with a quarterback who's not going to test it deep, or a quarterback who's going to test it deep all the time and can't complete the passes. And Fant is also going to be competing for targets with Jerry Jeudy and, if we hope he returns to something like his old form, Cortland Sutton. So I love the player. I hate the fantasy situation because he hasn't got a viable quarterback situation. Fant may have weeks where he's stream-worthy, certainly to start the season, but I need to see him establish a dominant role in the passing game. Even if they're not going to be particularly pass-heavy, I need to see him dominate the targets for me to think he's going to be higher up than any of the players I've got ahead of him.
Talk me through Higbee, Neil.
We've seen in a ridiculously small sample size that Tyler Higbee has been productive to an extreme measure when Gerald Everett has him in there. Well, Gerald Everett is still in the NFC West, but he's now on Seattle. The fact that maybe the Rams now without Cam Akers, and we don't know who's coming in or what they're going to do to replace him, might lean slightly more on the pass than they did this season. Well, that's good for Higbee because he's going to be on the field. We've seen that they're going to be, we know Sean McVay loves his 11 personnel. Well, now the only viable tight end is Tyler Higbee. So I love all the Rams pass catchers, especially current ADP, especially Bobby Trees. And Tyler Higbee now has that role all to himself. I just think we're not going to see how he ended 2019 when he was on a historic tear. But I think we're going to see more than we saw from him last year when he was still fighting Gerald Everett.
Amazing. One thing on tight ends. I'll be honest. I need Kyle Pitts in my life. I don't want to be the guy who doesn't get Kyle Pitts and then he goes for like 1,000 yards and multiple touchdowns, because that'll make me very sad. Just bear that in mind when you're playing fantasy with me during the next few weeks. Neil, let's get on with our preview this week. And this week we focus on the AFC East. Usual fare, big question. Fantasy darling more likely to be discussed. Just so everyone's aware, in terms of schedule for the AFC East, they have the AFC South, they have the NFC South. They play one NFC East team, one AFC North team, and one AFC West team. Neil, the big question for the Buffalo Bills, who we are starting with, is how do the Bills beat the Chiefs and win the AFC?
Well, one thing they can do is obviously get better on defence. Last year, which is odd because it's Sean McDermott's bailiwick, and they were not good defensively last year. It didn't hurt them that much because their offence was so explosive, but we've spoken ad nauseum, I feel, in the past that if you've got an explosive offence, you don't need to be the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, you just have to be middle of the pack. And last year they leaned more towards the bottom than the middle. So we need to see some improvements there, because if they're going to get into a shootout with the Chiefs, we've seen they can make enough plays to keep up pace. But you always feel that the Chiefs maybe have got that defensive moment in them. So, in a division, in a conference where, we've only got one bye, it could come down to that. Could you make the stop when you needed to against a team that you needed to? And last year we saw, I don't think that they were able to. So have they improved to an extent that this year they can make a play, strip sack, interception, fumble return, something of that ilk? Because offensively, assuming that last year wasn't a blip and this is Josh Allen now, a little bit of a drop off. I don't think he's going to be that efficient. But if it's we're going to sling the rock, we're going to pass, but we need our defense to make a couple of stops and we'll be fine, then they can compete. Especially, as I say, they got to the playoffs. They've won playoff games now. They are slightly more battle-tested than they have been previously.
Yeah, I do look and think, I'm not sure the offense can be as good, as explosive this year as last year, just based on norms. So therefore, they do need to get stops, right? They do need to make plays. They do need to get turnovers. I think they're still the best team in this division, quite easily. I do think they're better than most, if not all the challengers except the Chiefs. So they need to be able to beat the Chiefs. That's not going to be easy. They can score points on the Chiefs, but as you said, at that point, they then need to make stops at the right time. That's what they need to be able to do. It would also be quite nice if they could get the bye. Whether that's feasible when week 5 they play at Kansas City is open to interpretation. We shall see, I guess. Neil, who is the fantasy darling on the Buffalo Bills?
Well, there's actually quite a bit of fantasy value to be extracted from the Bills, because you're going to pay up for Josh Allen. You want him. You're going to pay up for Stephon Diggs. But then the other pieces, they're all going very, very late in the draft. You've got Emmanuel Sanders, who's expected to come in and, be the number 2 wide receiver behind Diggs, ahead of Cole Beasley or Gabe Davis. He's wide receiver 65 at the moment. What about the lead running back? I know they don't establish the run, but they do have people in place, especially important if they don't want Josh Allen to be running as much down by the goal line. Well, Zach Moss is your running back 36. Well, how about a player who ended last season showing some signs that he was starting to get a grip of it? And that's Dawson Knox. He's your tight end 33. Now, I'm not saying you have to draft Dawson Knox, but he's someone to keep an eye on early weeks of the season, especially if you decide, no, I'm not going to commit to wide tight end, I'll just stream. There is some danger that he loses his place to Jacob Hollister, who has had some fantasy success in the past as a member of the Seattle Seahawks. But Dawson Knox has shown some chemistry with Josh Allen. So I think you've got key pieces there that towards the back end of your draft, if you're just filling out your bench, you can think, I could see them doing something. And as I say, they're virtually free.
The over-under for the Buffalo Bills is 10.5. For those who care about these things, they have 4 primetime games, including Thanksgiving evening, the third game, the late game, playing the New Orleans Saints, which, as we discussed before, was probably better when it was scheduled than it is right now. 10.5, Neil, are the Bills more likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl, or not at all?
I think they're definitely Super Bowl contenders if they can improve their defense from last year. If it comes down to them against the Chiefs in the championship game, I'm still leaning Chiefs. As much as Josh Allen improved, he's still not Patrick Mahomes. But I say they're in that classic. They're obviously better than Week 18, but they're not quite good enough for the Super Bowl. So they're in that way. But if they were to make it, if something happened to the Chiefs, it would not stun me in the slightest.
I think if you speak to Buffalo Bills fans and you look at where they are and where they've been, if they don't make the AFC title game, their fans will be disappointed. Now, I know that's a big statement, right? But I think that's where the fan base is at the moment. That obviously means they're being discussed in Super Bowl terms. Can they make the Super Bowl? Yeah, right? Of course. Things go your way, bounce to the ball, injury here, injury there, whatever. At the moment, I don't see them as the Super Bowl representative from the AFC, but I do see them getting over 10.5, and I do see them being right in the hunt late January. Next team, Neil, Miami Dolphins. The big question for the Miami Dolphins is, when do we start getting concerned by the Tua noise?
Well, I think you have to be still slightly worried. The big conversational topic that seems to be cropping up ever so quietly, but is starting to get a bit of a drumbeat at the moment, is Deshaun Watson again. We're not going into it. I've no interest in going into it. But if people are starting talking about, if people like Adam Schefter are already saying when it's sorted out, these are the teams who should be interested, that tells me Schefter's hearing something that this may get sorted. Does that excuse any conduct or misgivings? No, but we're not discussing that. So obviously one team that's getting discussed is the Eagles. Another team is Denver, and another one is the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins have done, in theory, the right thing this offseason in that they took this quarterback early, and they want to do what the Bills did with Josh Allen, and that's surround him with weapons to help him. You know, they've brought in Will Fuller, they drafted Jalen Waddle. Should they have taken Devonta Smith there? Probably. Could they have taken Penei Sewell? Certainly. But they didn't. They wanted to surround him with weapons, so that's fine. There's not an awful lot they can do as an organisation now to come out and quiet the noise regarding another team's quarterback who's been linked to them. All they can do is, at the moment, it's Tua. He's not going to be coming out of games for Ryan Fitzpatrick. One thing I don't like what the Dolphins have done, because I don't see how it's going to work, they've got co-offensive coordinators. Really? Come on. It's a bit village, isn't it? But if their co-offensive coordinators can get together and design an offense to suit Tua Tagovailoa, then who am I to criticise? This team defensively needs to be as strong as they were last year and opportunistic. They did turn the ball over an awful lot. Well, one person who helped him doing that was Xavier Howard, and he's not particularly happy with his contract at the moment. You signed your contract, you had a bad year, you had a good year, and now you want to rip the contract up. I want players to get paid, but I don't think it works that way.
Agreed.
So, I think if Tua doesn't start the season well, it's going to crop up. There's going to be the noise. But if he starts the season well and is facilitating the offense, think back to Carson Wentz didn't start the 2017 season on fire. He started steady and then got better and better. Could we see a similar situation here? Yeah, I think we could. If the line can protect him, if the defence can live up to their end of the bargain, if when he's back from suspension, Will Fuller can do for Tua what he did for Deshaun Watson. This is a team that can contend, but I still don't think they're as good as the other team in their division.
It's a team with question marks, right? I think you've mentioned them all. I think, I was on the Tua hype train. There's no doubt about that. Just go back and listen to last year. He wasn't great, but he was coming off a pretty horrific injury. Pre-season, training camp, whatever. It's all, just getting you ready for the season. But the noises can be concerning, right? And I think that's fine to be, slightly. I could do with this not sounding like this kind of situation. Is it time to jump off the train? No. But is it probably just to get your coat and your hat and just put them a bit closer to you just in case? Probably. Yeah, as you said, Shefty knows stuff, and the noise around Watson in terms of not being in Houston anymore doesn't go away. They have attempted, as you quite rightly pointed out, to surround Tua with talent, or just surround the Dolphins with talent, right? Which they have been lacking for, I don't know, when was Dan Marino the quarterback? 20 years ago, 25 years ago, a long time ago, whatever it was.
I'm hearing the phrase the Marx Brothers. And
yeah, you know what I mean, right? Exactly. The defense needs to just be as good as it was last year, right? They need to continue to be opportunistic. They need to continue to make plays. I think they can. I think that's where the head coach thrives, right? Yeah, the co-offensive coordinator thing is, not great. But, whatever. That's for them to decide. I think this is a good team. And if their quarterback plays as people believed he can when he left, when he came in the draft, there's a big up market thing on this team. Whether that's the case or not is still to be seen, and I am nervous that it doesn't happen. Fancy darling for the Miami Dolphins, Neil?
Fancy darling for me is a player I've already talked about. It's Will Fuller. Now, he seems to be going as something of a value at the moment. Obviously, he will not be there for week 1. He's suspended. But he's still going as wide receiver 37. According to Player Profiler, he was number 2 among all wide receivers last year in fantasy points per target. We have seen that Will Fuller makes quarterbacks better. Deshaun Watson was an excellent quarterback for Houston, but he was even better when Will Fuller was in the team. So Fuller can help Tua, who can obviously help Fuller. So he's going as wide receiver 37. And also, if you don't like that, if you're thinking Will Fuller stayed healthy one season in his career and it was the 1 year he got popped for PEDs, well, how about Devontae Parker at wide receiver 51? He's going to play all the snaps. He's the only ex-receiver they have. He's going to play there. He's going to be... Tua obviously is not Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's not going to see man, throw man. But if he has situations where I need to just throw this up to someone to go and make a play, then maybe that's Devontae Parker. And I say, wide receiver 51, where are you taking him again? It's a decent bench stash for a player that, if you see in the first few weeks of the season, is he gelling with Tua? Does he have a role? It's not the worst pickup.
The Miami Dolphins are at 9 in the over-under. They have a tough first 5. They play the Pats in Foxborough. They play the Bills. They're at the Raiders. They play the Colts. And they're at the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's a tough start, and we'll find out a lot about Tua in those first 5 games, I think. 9 is the number, Neil. Are the Dolphins more likely to be described by DraftNix in Week 18 in the Super Bowl, or not at all?
I think it's a Week 18 situation. I think they're a good team if Tua lives up to... He doesn't have to live up to pre-injury billing, but if he lives up to his draft stock and the offense is geared around him, then they're going to contend for playoffs. They may miss out. The AFC is quite an open division. But I think this is a plan. This is a process. First year they stunk under Flores and this regime. It was all about shedding some dead wood, acquiring some capital, and plowing the resources to young, talented. Then last year, they were probably better than they thought they were going to be, and they challenged for the playoffs. This year, I think they need to be looking and saying, no, we're going for the playoffs this year. And then again, as long as they keep making the incremental improvements, next year it's now we're competing for the division. So I like the process. I don't think they're a bad season away from cleaning house. I think they're going to be patient with Brian Flores and what they've done. So this is a team that's still going to have something to play for in week 18. Beyond that, I don't know.
I think I'm with you. That something to play for in week 18. Absolutely agree with that. Do I wildcard team? Possibly, if not probably. Yeah. Are they as good as the Bills in this division? No, I don't think so. A lot of things would have to go right, and some things wrong for that to be the case. So I don't expect it to be the case. They were 10-6 last year, I think, and didn't make the playoffs. So I'm going to say they're going to take over 9 and will be a wildcard team this year. Let's move on, Neil, to the New England Patriots, former dominators of this division. And the big question for the New England Patriots is, did spending a lot of money fix the Patriots' issues of 2020?
There is the politician's logic of, we must do something, this is something, therefore we must do it. Their offense was abysmal last year, especially from a passing point of view. They needed to bring in more talent at receiving positions. They did this. Did the talent they bring in automatically make them contenders again? I don't know, because I watched Nelson Aguilar in an Eagles jersey, and I saw him have a good year last year with the Raiders. Which of these players is the player they've signed? Because Nelson Aguilar is going to be on the field for the New England Patriots. Is he the late year Eagles Aguilar, or is he game-breaking Raiders Aguilar? I don't know. We've talked about the tight ends. Yeah, they're both viable players. They're both good receivers. They're both good blockers. Who are they blocking for? Who are they catching passes from? This team's defense is getting old. And last year, you could run on them. And that's not something that you've been able to do an awful lot of in the Belichick era. Yeah, they've had a few dodgy quarterbacks, but they stuffed the run and just went, go on, pass into the zone. We're going to leave you when you're on 3rd and long, and we'll intercept you. We'll turn you over. Last year, they could get run on. Bill Belichick, as we know, is a Hall of Fame coach, probably one of the greatest coaches of all time. And getting that roster to an 8-8 or whatever it was, at 7-9 finish last year was an excellent achievement. Yeah, but do you think Belichick wants to go 8-8 and call that progress this year? No, I don't. Is Belichick going to go down the road of, no, we'll see where Mac Jones is and we'll bring him in when we're ready? No, if Mac Jones is ready, he's starting week 1. Because Belichick needs to get back to the playoffs. Because we know that he doesn't really listen to the noise. But if the noise is starting saying, is he going to be here for when all these pieces are good? Is Belichick still going to be here? This is a division that's not wide open. Last year, I think you could say it was. Now it's not. This is distinctly the Bills' division to lose now. Do I think all the players the Patriots have brought in are terrible? No, I don't. I like Jonnu Smith. I've liked him for a long time. I like Hunter Henry. I like some of the other pieces, like Jacoby Myers. He's solid. He's not a true number 1. No, but he's solid. He catches everything that's thrown at him. He had, last season, he had games where he was commanding 35% of the team targets. James White is one of the only running backs in the NFL. In fact, I think he's the only running back to have 50 receptions in each of the last 5 years. They've got Ramondre Stevenson as well, who flashed with Oklahoma. He's a bigger back. Cam Newton is fun when Cam Newton can do everything that Cam Newton used to be able to do. Can he, though? I don't know. I worry that this team, as I say, look, we've brought in all these pieces. Do they fit? Yeah, great. You're going to have to be in shootouts, though, because your defence is old and slow. They're a weird team, and I've not said that about the Patriots very often.
The quarterback question is large, and looms large for this team, you draft a first-round quarterback. What do you do with him? Is Cam fit? Is he healthy? Is he ready? Does he have weapons? He has more weapons than he did last year. I think they struggled last year. It just didn't go for them. It's the first time in a long time that it hasn't. That's just the way it goes, right? They should get players back from who opted out last year, who should benefit them, although they will be a year older. Do you like writing them off? No, that would be ridiculous. We've done that too often. Although last year, they didn't make the playoffs. And they didn't play good football. I saw something this week, and I didn't think about it. And then I saw comments around it, and then I did think about it. And that's our friend Roto Passadotti, everyone's favourite. Does his regular GM rankings, and ranks Belichick number 1. Bill Belichick is an absolutely wonderful, wonderful coach. I'm going to just say it, the best coach ever. I am far from convinced that he's the best GM in the league just because his team wins all the time. Because I think his team wins because he's an amazing coach, not because he's an amazing GM. They're not riddled with unbelievable talent. They don't draft well at all on offense. And there's a weird correlation between them not being good last year, and the other years, and that's the quarterback, who, I don't know if you know, won a Super Bowl with a different team. I love Patton, I hope we get him on to talk about it, because I'm interested in why he still thinks Bill Belichick's the best GM in the league, because I don't think he's got the most talent in the league, and he gets to pick him. His team's good. It's not. This is no flipping Houston Texans, Detroit Lions. None of that. This team is absolutely competitive. Will absolutely be in a position to win multiple games. I just think there's 2 better teams in the division. Thought there was 2 better teams in the division last year, and I was proved right on that. It's managed to decline at the moment from the New England Patriots. But then again, if they get a quarterback and Mac Jones is as good as they hope he will be, maybe they'll be back. I don't know. But at the moment, I think they're the 3rd best team, and I don't see it changing. Fancy darling, Neil, for the New England Patriots.
The New England Patriots targeted their running backs at a higher rate than any other team in the NFL last year. And yet James White, the proven pass catcher among the backfield, is going as the running back 51. Now, White's not going to be a superstar. He's not going to have running back 1 weeks. But as a solid flex option in PPR format, your favourite form, is he a terrible pick there? No. And of course, if they have Mac Jones coming in, well, we saw, Mac Jones at Alabama, more than happy to dump it off to his running back. Cam Newton, who apparently hated throwing to running backs until he had Christian McCaffrey. No, he threw to James White. So while he's never going to be the true workhorse. It's not what he is. It's not what he's about. It's not what he's never been. I think as a running back 3 flex option, he's not terrible, as long as they don't cut him, because there's a bit of a logjam there. It could be Damian Harris. Looks like he could be the lead back. What role does Ramondre Stevenson have? Is Sony Michel still going to be there? May they decide, well, Stevenson can be the pass catching back, so basically we're going between Michel and White. I don't know. But as long as he sticks on the roster and he's still going where he is, I wouldn't hate taking James White.
Over-under for the New England Patriots is 9, which is the same as the Miami Dolphins. Something that struck me when I looked at the schedule, they only have 3 primetime games, in America that is, which I assume is the lowest in 20 years. But yeah. Is this team more likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl, or not at all?
Because I never like to be made to look stupid by the New England Patriots, I'll say the Super Bowl. But I think it's closer to nothing, to not at all, than it is Week 18. because as you say, it's not a great roster. It's an uncertain quarterback situation. This is an offense that is historically difficult for rookies to pick up. Are we expecting Mac Jones to come in and take it from day one? I don't know. Is Cam Newton, does he have anything left? Is his shoulder gone completely? Can they keep up with the Bills in 2 games if it comes to a shootout? No. Can they make a few stops? Maybe. Can they score 35 on the Bills? No. I don't think they can. So I think it's a team that's going to be in contention for a wild card spot for most of the season, but I just think they'll fall short.
I think what we do need to say about the Patriots is the schedule is horrifically easy if you just look at it on paper. There's a lot of easy games, but there are some games where, as you said, I don't see this team winning many 35, 32 games. Week 4 they play the Bucks in Foxborough on Sunday Night Football.
I may stay up.
I will be staying up. They play Dallas. I assume that will be a shootout. They play the Chargers. I assume that will be a shootout. They play Cleveland. I assume that will be a shootout. They play Atlanta on Thursday Night Football. I assume that will be a shootout. Tennessee, possibly. They weirdly don't play the Bills until week 13. They play them week 13 and week 16. Their bye week is also outrageously late, week 14. Someone will probably tell us there's a conspiracy against the Patriots and that's why their bye is so late. I don't know. They do finish with the Florida double of Jacksonville and Miami, although only one of them's on the road, which is week 18 in Miami, which they never win. So they best hope they're already in the playoffs if they're going to make it. 9-8, 8-9, yeah, I think so. It is an easy schedule though. Like, you get to play the Jets twice. That's good, right? You get to play Houston. You get to play Carolina. Don't think they're great. Jacksonville, not great. Dallas, not great. Do you know what I mean? There's wins in there, and coaching matchups, it's a no-brainer. So if they won 11 or 12 games, would I be shocked? No. I still doesn't that mean they're any good? Well, no, it doesn't.
I have a suspicion that Mac Jones starts week 5. He will not start in week 4.
And if we go down that avenue, if he starts week 5, his first 3 games are the Houston Texans, dumpster fire, the Dallas Cowboys, defensive dumpster fire, and the New York Football Jets.
The Jets. Yeah. Let Cam get fed to the wolves against Tom and the Bucks, then usher in the new era the next week.
Yeah. Let's move on to the New York Football Jets. The big question for them are there actually green shoots of life for this franchise?
How many times are we going to have this conversation?
We have it at least once every 5 years. So I'm just saying This is the year we have it.
Yeah. I mean, just while I've been watching the NFL, the new eras that have started, the Pennington era, the Favre season, the Sanchez era, the Darnold era, and now we have the Zach Wilson era. Now, this is a team that likes to build on defense and running the ball. Well, if this is a Shanahan offense, which we are led to believe it is, they're going to sort the running the ball out. Obviously, a Shanahan offense requires running backs that you don't really care about just throwing their body to the fire and getting chewed up and spat out by this system. That's fine. They've not really got any superstars back there. Tevin Coleman, Michael Carter might be good. LaMichael Pirine, yeah. The defense is not great. So, for this season to be a success, they need to see that Zach Wilson can become what they thought he could be. Now, I will temper that because, if you remember, as a rookie, the quarterback that had the highest QBR in the entire NFL in the month of December back in 2018 was Sam Darnold. It never got that high again. Yeah, they went 6-2 down the stretch in his second season. So what? He wasn't great. The offense stunk. They just played teams that stunk more. So we need to see that Wilson can function in this scheme and that some of the young pieces they have on defence can show a leg as well. That's how it's deemed a success. They're not blacking their way into the playoffs this year. They're just not. Do they go 2-15? 3-14? No, I don't think they do. I think as well it probably should be addressed that there is something that can bring this team together. Obviously, this week, one of their assistant coaches, Greg Knapp, long-time NFL coach, assistant coach, was killed in a road accident. And I'll say it's not really an accident. He was on a bike, got hit by a car. That's, it's not a collision. That's getting hit by a car, despite what some reports have seen. That we've seen in the past, for good, that can really galvanise a team for you to play for the memory of an assistant coach. Famously, back in 2001, the New England Patriots quarterback coach Dick Rabine died just before the season started. He was the man who told them to draft Tom Brady. They played that season for him. Obviously, there was 9/11 as well. That inspired them as a team and as a nation. So it could be a unifying force that it gets everyone in the Jets to pull together to do it for Napa. They're not a great team, but if we can see signs that Zach Wilson can take to the NFL and they pull off 5-6 wins from where they were, that's good progress. Just as long as it looks like this offense and defense is being run by grown-ups and not a loose confederation of warring tribes as it was in the last 2 years.
I think Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, it's a LaFleur, right? LaFleur
it's Mike LaFleur. Yes.
LaFleur. They seem professional. They seem logical. They have drafted players and picked up players who you go, that makes sense. That's logical. When it comes to the quarterback, that was open to interpretation. You can pick whoever you want. They pick Wilson. Okay, fine. I would not. Whatever. But the other positions, Rondé Moore, the running back Carter, some interesting players. Salah's obviously a defensive guy. You hope that he manages to fix that. As you say, no one's suggesting. I'm not suggesting they win 9 games. I'm just not. This is a 6-7 win team, right? And but it's a start. And what they need to happen is for Zach Wilson to make plays and do things that people go, wow, he looks like a starting quarterback in the NFL. Now, as you quite rightly pointed out, that did happen with Sam Darnold in the past. You just hope that this time they allow the offense to flourish, or allow the team to flourish and keep people in positions. The fear I always have with the way their hierarchy is set up is that the head coach is defensive. So therefore, if the offensive coordinator is good, he becomes a head coach somewhere else. This is an issue, right? This is the Titans' situation this year, that they lose Arthur Smith, and now you don't know what the offense is going to be like. Is that next year's problem in 2022? I don't think so, and I just think it's something to bear in mind that, if the offense becomes great fast, then the offensive coordinator won't be there for very long, and that may have a negative impact on the quarterback and his offensive skill players who are quite young.
I think it's a problem they'd like to have.
Yes, of course. Of course. Neil, fancy Darling for the New York Football Jets?
Fancy Darling, say if you want one piece of the passing game, put it this way, if you want the whole Jets offense, you can get it, and it can sit on your bench. Player in particular is Corey Davis. They brought him in from the Tennessee Titans. Davis had a career year last year in terms of efficiency. It did help that he was over the other side of the field from an absolute beast. He doesn't have that. Are they going to expect Corey Davis to be the guy in New York, or do they think Denzel Mims can be the guy, and therefore they can let Corey Davis be the number 2? I don't know. Mims, there's a bit of bad press. It doesn't seem to be flavour of the month because while it's the same GM who drafted him, it's not the same coaching staff. So whilst they may think that Denzel Mims is a we'll toss this up, you go and get it, that's not a Shanahan offense. And for all intents and purposes, that's what this is. We'll call it what it is. It's a LaFleur offense, is it? Yeah, but that's a Shanahan offense, just with slight tweaks. Corey Davis, for me, would be the value pick. So he's going at wide receiver 55. He's not going to be wide receiver 1. Could have wide receiver 2 weeks, especially if their ground game doesn't work and they do have to pass the ball a lot. But I think he could be a solid wide receiver 3. Not to get too excited about, but it's the Jets.
The Jets over-under is 6. If you are a fan of the New York Jets and you live in the UK, boy, have we got a schedule for you. 3 games. Sunday, September 26th, at the Denver Broncos, 9 p.m. UK time, against the Atlanta Falcons. Oh, that's in the UK? Okay, excuse me. And then Thursday Night Football, Friday the 5th of November, at the Indianapolis Colts. Every other game is 6 p.m. UK time on a Sunday. If you like Red Zone, you'll be seeing a lot of the Jets. Or not, but you'll be seeing teams playing the Jets. Number 6, Neil. Draft Nicks, Week 18 in the Super Bowl, or not at all?
I think the goal this year would be to not at all.
Yeah.
I suspect they'll be somewhere between that and Draft Nicks. I don't think... See, they're not a great roster. But if they can show some... say shoots of recovery, as you called it, then maybe they could nudge towards not at all. I think they still have some assets in 2022. I think they've got 2 first-round picks, so obviously they can still build this roster so they don't have to finish 2-15 and hope they get a prime draft pick. They're going to have plenty of ammunition to do what they want in the draft next year. So I don't think they're going to be great by any stretch of the imagination. Could they be fun? Maybe. Shanahan scheme teams generally are. So I'll go on a limb and I'll say not at all.
I think if we look at it and based on the fact that we think the other 3 teams have chances to win games, I think if you do basic math, then it would be not at all, right? Because not every team can win all the games. I've listened to shows recently where the team that they picked the over for everyone, which seems a bit silly. So I think it's not at all, but I don't think it matters. If they get what they need in terms of visuals from the quarterback and a couple of skill players, then it's fine. I don't think that's a problem. And then you draft high again next year and you are in a position to be better in years to come. So yeah, if you want to watch the Jets, you're going to get a real chance to in the UK, whether you like it or not. But I think me and Neil think they suck. Neil, let's quickly recap. I think we both agree. Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets.
Yeah.
Do you see the Dolphins making the playoffs as a wild card? Tight?
It's tight.
Because I think we've already, if you think about it logically, we've already both picked Baltimore and Cleveland.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I assume that you'll only pick one AFC South team to make the playoffs. And then, or you might not do. And then it's a question of how much do you love the LA Chargers.
I'll tell you what, I will say the Dolphins can make the playoffs.
Yeah, same. So,
and that's just doesn't mean I don't love the Chargers, but we'll get to that.
Of course. Yeah, Neil, that's the show. Where can people catch you before we're back next week?
On the Twitter at EndUp13, I have written a shed load of stuff for number 5 this week. I have written pieces on Adam Thielen. I've written a piece on Robert Woods, Will Fuller, Kyle Pitts. Couldn't stop writing. Just got into a nice groove. Could not stop. Still got a few more pieces to come. I'm working on a piece on Calvin Ridley. Then one on Herb Smith. And I think that's it this week. Yes, I'm going to have a piece out on Wonderworld, on Player Profiler, about the difference between target rate and target share. And also, don't forget, go to Player Profiler and buy the world famous draft kit. You get the customizable cheat sheet. There's the top 300 players with the top 150 with blurbs, stats, and videos from such giants as Josh Norris, Matt Harmon, the Podfather, Roto Pat, and humble nobodies like myself as well.
It's proper cool, by the way, guys. Like, I would highly recommend it. It's awesome. And, you know, more Neil. That's it for this week. Next week, brace yourselves. It's the NFC East in a kind of parallel universe where I have a horrible, horrible feeling we're going to hate one of our teams and like the other one. And it's not what it usually is. But
yeah, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore, Toto.
I don't think we are, Toto. I don't think we are. Until that time, that's it for this week, and these top guys are out.